Hello, hello, hello. I can see that people are coming in. Lovely to have you all here. Got a few. So we're expecting quite a crowd today. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to hop in before we get going on our training today, the truth about the Meno-belly. I hope everyone is as excited as me. Just so you're all aware, there is going to be a Q&A at the end. So you will see that there is a Q&A button section at the bottom that you can pop questions in throughout. So if anything comes to mind as we go through the whole webinar, feel free to pop as many questions as you like in there. And I'm just going to be going through them in order at the end. So if anything sort of is specific, don't worry. If it's just really, really specific to you, that's absolutely fine. Whether it's because you've gone into surgical menopause, whether it's you're post-menopause and have no idea where to start in the gym, whatever it is, be as specific as you like. So we're going to wait a little bit longer as people hop in, give everyone a chance. I know it's the middle of, well, here, a very wet, grey day, but fingers crossed everyone can get a late lunch break and join us for today. We're going to go through all sorts of different things, causes of the Meno-belly, various different aspects of what's going on internally that creates the aesthetic, and obviously how we can put things in place to actually rid ourselves of these problems. So really looking forward to getting going. So we're going to give it one more minute and then I'm going to share the webinar presentation on the screen. If you've just hopped in, like I said right at the beginning, feel free to use the Q&A section. So not the chat, use the Q&A section. Put in as many questions as you like. At the end, there will be a Q&A sort of time for you guys to go through all of those questions. I'm going to answer them in order. So if there's anything specific for you, just pop them in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get going and then hopefully people will be able to watch the replay and catch up as we do. So let's get everything rolling. Now, I always say to everybody, come to me for weight loss, don't come to me for technology. So fingers crossed this works. Let's see how we get going. So let's bring this up here, the truth about the Meno-belly. Fingers crossed. Otherwise, you're just going to have to look at my mug without any presentation. Here we go. No one wants to look at just me. All right, so welcome to the truth about the Meno-belly. What worked in your 20s won't work in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. So today we're going to be talking about exactly why, where the Meno-belly comes from, what the causes are, what's happening from a hormonal standpoint, as well as an evolutionary standpoint. And then we're going to look at, obviously, how we're going to rectify these issues and put some specific things in place that you need to be focusing on now that we are going into menopause and beyond. So today we're going to look at, like I say, the causes. We're going to be focusing on acid and alkaline. So this is an area that most people are not aware of and covers food, stress, exercise, all sorts of things, and actually causes the retention of belly fat in a way that you probably haven't actually heard about. Most people don't discuss it. Most doctors don't discuss it, but it's a huge part of not just the belly, but also internal health as well. We're going to look at the importance of water. Now, most of you will have heard, drink more, water's good for you, but probably no one's taken the time to explain why. So that's going to be a key aspect of what we go through. We're going to be looking at the 3 different main food groups: fats, carbs, and protein, and why we need all of them. So in terms of fats don't make you fat, but some fats are much more useful to you at this stage than others. Carbohydrates, they are not the enemy. You need them. Most of the animal kingdom lives on carbohydrates, so they're a really essential food group. Protein, how to use protein to get the best possible change in your body. And then we're going to look at metabolism. This is the absolute key. And we're going to look at two versions of a particular client that I had and how the metabolism really, really makes the biggest difference. And then obviously, like I say, we're going to have our Q&A at the end. So causes of the Meno-belly. Where does it come from? Why do we suddenly wake up and go, where did that come from, right? Where does it come from? So we've got hormones. Now, most of us are aware of two main hormones, estrogen and progesterone. So this graph here actually shows us the levels of estrogen in the body as we age. So as you can see at 20, we have a relatively heightened estrogen, but it actually increases through our 30s. The reason being is that now we tend to have delayed childbirth. So over the last 100 years, women are having children later and later, and actually we've adopted this change in our hormone levels to peak at a certain time before we start to drop again. Now, this peak of estrogen leads to sort of a fertile, but also a highly susceptible body to changes in exercise, food. Essentially, in your 30s, it's a great time to do things because your body has all of the power and estrogen it needs to actually make those adaptations pretty easily. But as soon as we hit 40, everything starts going down. And as you can see, between 40 and 60, there is a huge drop in estrogen levels. At the same time, progesterone, and there's other hormones called androgens, these are our masculine hormones. They also start to peak and then decline. Now, these masculine hormones are responsible for things like muscle development. So, for instance, these muscles, the tone, the physique that everyone's looking for, they're more defined by the levels of androgen in the body. And with this curve and decrease, the androgens start to go down as well. Not only does this have an impact on your tone and physique, but it also has an impact on how your body stores fat. So muscle tone is essentially lost from the reduced hormone production. And that is both estrogen and those androgens, the masculine hormones. You need both of them in your body to create the shape that we're looking for. When these hormones disappear, essentially what happens is that your fat cells start to increase in size. So the areas where the muscle tends to go first is the midsection, and this is from an evolutionary standpoint. We'll look at that on the next slide. But as the muscle starts to decrease rapidly, it has to be replaced by something. Now, if you're listening to this and you've had children, so maybe you've given birth once, twice, multiple times, what happens during that process is the belly grows and the fat cells grow with it. So your fat cells are kind of like a little pocket, just like this, a little pocket, and they start very, very small. And so your 20s, you haven't had kids, they're really, really small. They haven't ever been filled. Imagine it like a sort of a balloon. When you get pregnant, especially, those fat cells around the midriff start to expand. It's almost like filling a balloon with water. They start to expand and get bigger and get bigger and get bigger. So now that you've got these larger pockets, you might lose weight and those pockets deplete slightly, but they're still much more likely to inflate again. So what I mean by that is imagine a brand new balloon. Have you ever had that moment at a kid's party where you're trying to blow up a brand new balloon and struggling massively because it's really, really tight and really, really taut? Well, that's like your fat cells in your 20s before the estrogen starts to deplete, for the androgens, before kids. Your fat cells are really taut. It's very hard to fill them. But then what happens is once you put on weight the first time, the initial time that you put on weight, regardless of what age it is, those fat cells are like the balloon. They start to massively expand with air. And then have you noticed that the second time you try to blow up that balloon is so much easier? That as soon as you've blown it up once, you can blow it up with no effort at all. That's like a fat cell. Now that it's been filled once, even if you lose the weight, it can easily expand again. So once you've put on weight once, it's much, much easier to put it on multiple times. So if you took a version of me who's 18 before I ever gained my 70 pounds in weight, and then you took the version of me now post gaining that weight, we ate the same, we exercised the same, everything was the same. The version of me now would put on fat about 50% quicker than the 18-year-old, because those balloons, all of those fat cells have expanded once, so it's so much easier to fill them. This is the problem. So if you've been overweight in the past, even if it was slightly, you are much, much more likely to get a Meno-belly and put on weight again now. So the other reason the Meno-belly comes on is mainly from an evolutionary standpoint. So when it comes to evolution, you've got to think about where your vital organs are. So this dude here, this headless, kneeless person, these are our main, other than the lungs and the heart, our main organs. We don't have organs in our arms. We don't have organs in our legs or our head. They're all within this section. Now, if you think 2,000 years ago, you hit 40, and I say this with love, you were a useless member of the tribe. You couldn't have kids anymore. You couldn't hunt. You couldn't kill. You were pretty much pointless. So what would happen is you'd be put out to pasture. If you were lucky enough to survive past the age of 40, you'd be essentially left out and only given scraps of food. This being the case, your body has one job. Your brain has one job. Your hormone and endocrine system has one job: keep you alive. In order to keep you alive, it needs to keep you warm. It needs to keep your organs safe. Doesn't care what you look like. Doesn't care if you're happy with what you see in the mirror. Keep you alive, which means all of your fat would accumulate in one place to keep all of your organs safe and warm. And where is that? Oh, look, it's right here. So from an evolutionary standpoint, we haven't evolved past this. We are still stuck 2,000 years ago. So as soon as we hit that sort of 40 and our body senses that all of those estrogen levels are going down and we're no longer fertile and productive in that sense, it assumes that we're not going to be fed, that we're not going to be housed, that we're not going to be cared for. So it goes into survival mode and sends all of that fat storage around the stomach to essentially look after the vital organs. So we've got a hormonal thing that we're struggling against and an evolutionary, but you can do something about it. Now, one of the biggest things that people aren't aware of is acid and alkaline and the effect that has on body fat storage in the system. So essentially, your body is like a swimming pool. It needs to keep a pH level between 7.36 and 7.45. That probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but if it went either side of that, you would die. Your body would shut down, your organs would shut down, you wouldn't survive. Now, why is this important? This is important because everything that we consume in this day and age pretty much is acidic. So every time you eat fast food, acid, massive amounts of acid in the system. Every time you eat refined sugar, massive amounts of acid build up in the system, even to the point of proteins. Most proteins cause acid. Most carbohydrates cause acid. There's actually one type of food, just one, that is alkaline inducing, and that is chlorophyll rich green foods. Everything else builds up acid. Equally, as you can see on the slide, stress builds acid. Alcohol smoking, these are pure acid, pure toxin. I want you to think of acid as toxin, pure toxin. Even things like paracetamol, ibuprofen, pure acid in the system. So what happens is the acid builds and builds and builds. To a point, your body can filter it. So that's where the blood system comes in. It filters acid through the blood, sends it out, sweat, tears, wee, all of the usual bodily functions that my boys think are so funny. So we filter that acid out, but it gets to a point where we have so much of it in the system, we can't filter it anymore. It's gone beyond that. So we have to store it. Because remember, the body's only function is to keep you alive. So the only way it can keep you alive is to keep your pH level balanced. So it has to put the acid somewhere. Can't filter it anymore. So it stores it in one place, i.e. body fat. Imagine the acid like a grenade. It takes a grenade, wraps it in a big old blanket and stores it. And that is body fat. So now that acid is in the body fat, because remember, the fat cells around your stomach are like the balloons. You've blown it up once by having children, most likely. Now it's much easier to constantly blow it up again and again and again. So it stores it in the body fat around the stomach. So you go, dude, I'm pissed off. I'm really annoyed. I've got all of this fat around my stomach. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out excessively hard. I'm really going to go for it. I'm going to go 7 times a week and I'm going to get a personal trainer who screams at me and makes me want to kill myself during an exercise session. That means it's working. As you do that, your body creates something called lactic acid. Lactic acid, it's in the name, acid builds up. And all that's happening is you're adding more acid into the system and your body goes, well, I can't do anything with that. I can't filter it. There's too much already. I'll put it in body fat. So now you're stressed, you're working out and no body fat is going. You're looking at the scales going, why is this not changing? Why is my stomach looking exactly the same? Because all of that body fat is holding acid. And the body fat, if it got released, if it disappeared, that acid would go into the system. pH level would get to an unreasonable amount and we'd be gone. So we have to understand that the only way to truly tackle this element is to decrease acid in the system, which means eating chlorophyll-rich greens. So what this means is leafy greens, the kind of greens where the sunlight has permeated the leaves and then you eat that. So nettles, for instance, nettle soup is one. All fresh herbs is another one. Things like lettuce, spinach, where the leaf itself is the vegetable. We're not talking about things like cucumber. It's green, but the chlorophyll's in the leaf of the plant, not in the seed, which is the cucumber. This is a very dodgy move I'm doing here. So we need to decrease toxins in the body, medication, alcohol, smoking, all of these kind of things. Increase these chlorophyll-rich greens. So this is a massive part of bringing our acid levels down and decreasing stress. I know it's hard, but it's a really vital aspect. So what we've learned so far is bring the acid down, chlorophyll-rich greens, de-stress. Remember those hormones makes it much easier. Evolution, much easier for those balloons to be inflated around the stomach. So that is where we come on to the next section, which is water. Now, water, you've probably heard multiple times, probably even as a child, drink water, drink water, drink water. Why? Right? I'm a great believer that if we don't know why, we don't do it. So there are 3 key reasons. And the first comes along from the acid and the alkaline. Water cleans, right? If you're in, a state, you've been out for a muddy walk, what do? You go and get in a shower. You clean yourself with water. Water is a massive cleanser. Now, there is a really big key here, which is the acidic buildup that we just discussed. So toxins build up in the system. And the more water you drink, the more you can flush that out. So I'll show you my 3-liter bottle that I get through every single day. So this water goes through my system, and every time it goes through my system, it gets drenched and absorbs, like osmosis, the toxins in my body, and it comes out. And I hear so many women, and I can hear you at home saying, but when I drink more water, I need to pee. I need to wee all the time. Yes, you do. There is no magic bullet to stop that. I wee constantly, and I can guarantee before the end of this webinar, I'll probably need to wee. That means your body is getting rid of the toxins. So a lot of women that I know drink maybe like, this is an electrolyte tablet in there, by the way, it's not a weird colored water. So a lot of women drink maybe 2 of these a day. So imagine all of those toxins in your body, all of that acid buildup, all of that crap in your system. As soon as this glass of water goes in, it gets filled with those toxins and it's brimming. It can't absorb all of the toxins, so it immediately wants to come out. You have one more, it gets completely filled. This is why when you're dehydrated and your wee is dark, it's because it's full of toxins. The darker it is, the more toxins there are in the system coming out. So imagine trying to fit all of the toxins into 2 glasses like this. You're going to be left with more. It's like trying to clean an exceptionally muddy St. Bernard dog with, a teaspoon of water. It's not enough. You need more to clean all of that out. So the more water you have, the more you're flushing toxins out. So yes, you need to wee, but deal with it. That's a good thing. It means all of the rubbish is coming out of the system and it's not being stored in body fat, because the more you can flush it out, the more it gets filtered, the less it is stored. I've got no acid in my body fat because I don't need it, because I clean it all out of my system. The second thing when it comes to cleaning with water internally is the buildup of bacteria. So most of us have an acidic environment, and there's bacteria, mainly yeast, that loves an acidic environment. It's like garbage and rats. If you let rubbish pile up on the streets, the rats will come. If you let acid build up and build up and build up, the yeast will come. So most of us are massively filled with something called candida. And I found this for myself when I thought I was eating really healthy. I was like, I eat loads of it's whole, clean food, whatever that really means. But the one thing that I hadn't really noticed was I ate tons of fruit. I stopped snacking on, processed stuff, but I ate lots of fruit, which is, as we know, natural, but pure sugar, which is pure acid. And so I went for a blood test and there was candida everywhere in my system. You can see it in your blood system. And it's there because I had such an acidic environment from the fruit I was eating that every time I then had food, sugar of some description, the candida, who are sugar monsters, the yeast, who is a sugar monster, grabbed all the sugar I would eat from the fruit or the food, and then there'd be very little left for my actual body. So I'd almost crave more. I'd have sugar of some description, even if it was fructose in a banana, and I'd want more. It's like, why? Why is this happening? I'm not hungry. I shouldn't be hungry. I'm craving the sugar. And it was because my body wasn't getting any of it. It was all going to the bacteria. There was maybe 5% left over that went to my system. So it was because I was eating too much acidic food, even though it was on paper healthy, and I wasn't drinking enough water to clean it out. As soon as I rectified that, never had a sugar craving again. Water is important for cleaning. Second, your body produces a hormone called ghrelin, and it produces it when you're both thirsty and hungry. Most of us, when we feel the hormone and we feel that rise, what do? We go and eat. Most of us don't go and get a glass of water. So it's really, really important that every time you think you're hungry, have a glass of water first. It takes 20 minutes for your body to register that it's had the water. So have a glass of water, wait 20 minutes. If you're still hungry, then go and get food. But don't use food as your go-to. It should always, most of the time, people are just dehydrated. And number 3, if you see the slide, and I remember when I first started learning about this, it was insane. When you are dehydrated, even by 2%, you get a 25% drop in cognitive ability. So if you ever had that thing where you've got a headache or you're really tired and you just don't know why, mostly you're dehydrated. That's how much just a small amount of dehydration can affect you. So imagine how much more productive you'd be. Imagine how much easier life would be if you were working at 100% cognition all the time. So, and remember as well, when you're not at high energy, no one craves salad when they feel crap. No one. I've never met anyone who was drunk or hungover or tired or just burnt out who's gone, hey, give me lettuce. No. We go and order pizza. We go and get takeaways. We go and have cake or biscuits. And then obviously that has a massive effect on the thing that we're talking about today, which is the belly. So as a rough estimate, you should be drinking 1 ml of water for every calorie that you burn. So for me, I burn anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day. So I drink 3 liters. Most of you, and I can't give you an exact, it will be different for everyone. It will be different depending on your job, your lifestyle, your age, if you've had children or not before, if you're perimenopause, going through menopause, but most of you will be burning anywhere between 17 to 2,200 calories a day, which means you should be drinking roughly about 2 liters of water. So that's a massive thing that you should go away, take away. It's really easy to implement. Top tip, start your day with a glass of water. Have it on your bedside. As soon as you wake up, down that water and then carry on before you have coffee, before anything else. It makes it so much easier to function and so much easier to control appetite. So then we come on to food. So we've got food and metabolism to talk about. So it's probably going to take us about 35 minutes, which leaves us 10 minutes for Q&A. So food for thought. Not all fats are created equal. So there are 3 major food groups: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Now, the reason people are scared of fats, I've heard so many people think fats cause you to become fat. The reason people are scared is because fats themselves are higher in calories than protein and carbs. So protein and carbohydrates, 1 gram of any sort of protein or carb has 4 calories. 1 gram of fat has 9. So it's more than double. So for instance, if you had a teaspoon of rice and a teaspoon of olive oil, the amount's the same, but the olive oil would be more than double the amount of caloric energy intake than the rice. So you just got to be aware. This is where people maybe get a little bit carried away with sauce. Mayonnaise is a big one that I hear. I love mayonnaise. But if you have a massive dollop of mayonnaise that's full fat, that's a huge number of calories. But fats are also the main regulator of your endocrine system. Your endocrine system being the system that regulates your hormones. Most women who are perimenopause, menopause, or beyond have a completely shot to pieces endocrine system. And the one food group, there's only one, that will fix that is plant-based fats. So you need to be focusing on this. So here's a few different options. Omega-3, fatty fish. So yes, you can get tablets, absolutely, but your body is much less efficient at absorbing tablets than actual food. And as a quick understanding as to why, when you chew, the actual act of chewing food produces hormones that dissolve the food better, so the nutrients are distributed more evenly. When you just swallow a tablet, there's no chewing, your body doesn't know that there's anything in the system, so it doesn't produce the right sort of breakdown in order to actually distribute that. So it's much, much better to actually chew food rather than to, take a supplement if you can. So omega-3, really, really important for the regulation of estrogen. So you can get that in fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines. You want a good balance of DHA and EPA and EPG. So you want a really, really nice balance of the different fish oils, but omega-3 is really, really key. Plant-based fats, avocado, olive oil, nuts. These are really important. So plant-based fats are super important in actually allowing your hunger hormones to work effectively, because most of you are probably insulin resistant because your hunger hormone, ghrelin, is out of whack. So it's telling you you're hungry at weird times, like middle of the night snacking. Plant-based fats help to balance that massively. So avocado, olive oils, plant-based oils, nuts, seeds. Seeds, chia, flax, hemp, linseed. These seeds are really key for allowing skin elasticity. So a lot of women find that their skin has become really crepey and really sort of loose. So even when they do lose fat, they then sort of look a bit like a wrinkly plastic bag. We need the oils in these seeds for our skin production. So that's really, really key. And then your microbiome, which is your gut. So 95% of your happy hormone, serotonin, but happy hormone, because I think that sounds nicer. 95% of the hormone that makes you happy comes from the gut, not the brain. And so we need a really healthy gut environment to feel good. And that comes from natural yogurts, Greek yogurt, kefir yogurts. So these are the main fats you want to look at: seeds, plant-based, avocado, olive oil, nuts, omega-3, and natural Greek and kefir yogurts. If you focus on that, then you're going to be in a really good place. What you want to avoid is the saturated animal fats, butter, lard, fat on a steak. These kind of fats you want to avoid. They have no nutritional benefit other than fat storage and building up plaque in your arteries. So the more saturated fats you get from processed food, animal food, butter, dairy, the more that you have plaque build up in your arteries, the harder everything else becomes in life. So not all fats are equal. Carbs are not the enemy. Carbs are essential. And this gives you a bit of a breakdown of how carbs are used in the body. So 60% of the carbs that you eat go to the brain. The brain is the most glucose hungry part of your body. All carbs are broken down into glucose in the body, and your brain needs most of it. Then your muscles. Your muscles cannot build without carbohydrate. Everyone seems to think it's just protein that's essential. It isn't. Carbs are absolutely vital for the buildup of muscle tone. You need to eat them. Energy, most of your energy comes from carbohydrates. And then you've got liver and body fat. And as you see, body fat and the liver are the two smallest areas where carbs go. So as long as you're eating the right carbs, it's going to all of the right places. Carbs don't make you fat. Eating too many of them does. In the same way that I could eat 5,000 calories of broccoli, that would still put weight on. It's still more energy than I need, even if it's only come from broccoli. So what we want to do is focus on non-refined carbohydrates. So I'm not talking about processed sugars, processed white carbs. We want brown whole carbs. And the reason being, most of us eat way too many white carbs. And white carbs, how are they white? They've been bleached. So if you think about your bathroom, I'm guessing most of you in this chat are the ones that go and clean the house. I'm guessing the men at home aren't so good with that. What would you do if you have black mold? You get bleach, pour it over the mold. What does it do? The mold goes white. It kills the living bacteria that creates the mold. Same thing in your food. Bleach strips away all of the layers to leave the white of the food, which is great. That's what you get: white bread, white pasta, white rice. But guess what? There's no nutritional stuff left. So you eat it, it's still got the same amount of calories as the brown stuff, but none of the nutritional benefit. So you're still hungry. So you eat more. So instead of one piece of bread, you eat 5. Instead of 1 cupful of rice, you eat 4. So you've got to think about the type and quality of the carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are key for muscle, brain, and energy, but you need to be eating brown, whole carbs that are not gone through a process of bleaching and refining, because you're left with no nutrition, no satiety. Yeah, I'll use that as a word. You don't feel full, so you eat way too many of them. No one has eaten this much popcorn and gone, yeah, that's enough to satisfy me, have they? You eat this much popcorn. So think about carbs, think about the type. And the last one is protein. Protein is king for the belly. Why? If you have it at breakfast, it keeps you full throughout the day. So most of us have a massive bowl of processed carbs in the morning. in the shape of some sort of cereal out of a box, or we have multiple pieces of white bread with marmalade or jam or sugared peanut butter. So we just have a big old plate or a big old bowl of carbs, which spikes our energy, our blood sugar levels. And then all that happens after that spike is it drops. And as soon as it drops, we get cravings for more. Our brain goes, oh my goodness, I need food. So we have crisps or biscuits. Oh, we get a good old spike. I feel good again. And then we drop. Oh my God, I'm so hungry. I need to eat right now. Oh, let's have a massive old sandwich and a packet of Walker's crisps. Big old spike. And then we drop. 2 or 3 o'clock. Ugh, why do I feel so tired? So we have sugary tea, sugary coffee, biscuit. We have a spike. We drop. We get home. We're starving. We have a massive portion of food at dinner. And then we go to bed, start all over again. So because of this, we're eating tons of food. If we start our day with protein, we just do this. Our energy levels stay really, really lovely. They just stay going throughout the day. If you have protein for your snack, so you can make things like little protein balls, protein flapjacks. I'm a big believer in make things easy. I buy packets of pre-cooked chicken, have that with maybe some cucumber, something like that. Protein just keeps you going, keeps you going. You have a nice protein-based lunch. So that could be a protein-based casserole, stew. You can have soup, add some chicken to it. I love tomato soup and add some fish or seafood, things like that. Heat it up in a microwave. Doesn't need to be fancy. Doesn't need to be a whole cooked meal. But think about how you can add protein to different types of lunches. Then all that happens is you keep going like this. So you don't get cravings, you don't get energy slumps, you don't feel lethargic, you don't desperately want biscuits. And suddenly you get to the end of the day and you've eaten half the amount of calories purely because you've eaten the right ones. So protein is absolutely key. And protein is also key for the development of muscle tissue round here to replace those balloons that we were talking about with the fat cells. So protein at every single meal, especially breakfast. So to give you a rough idea of a breakdown that you want to be looking at, 35% protein, 35% fat, 30% carbs. If you can follow that breakdown, then you're in a really good place from a nutritional perspective. And last up, metabolism. I will make this quick, I promise, so that we have time for our Q&A. Metabolism, the truth about how metabolism works. So let's take my client, Doreen. Her name is not Doreen. This is also not her. This is just off Adobe stock, but you know, it's a picture. So version 1 in the blue, she has tried dieting since she was 20. So she's now 40. She spent 20 years, let's say, doing different diets, but never focusing on exercise. Version 2 in the red, dieted and did exercise. What's the difference? Quite a lot. So version 1, classic, don't worry, you're going to get this in the email so you can go through this in a bit more detail. But version 1, who only dieted, 10 stone, 5'2". When she was 20, her maintenance was 1,800 calories. So if she ate 1,800 calories, she'd stay the same weight. She probably ate a bit more than that. She partied, she went to uni, she drank a lot. She put on a couple of stone. So she decided, right, I'm going to cut my calories, lose weight. So she went in a 500 calorie deficit, ate 1,300 calories, lost a couple of pounds every week for 2 months. Awesome. I've lost my weight. I feel good. Let's go back to normal eating. How many people have done a diet and then as soon as I go back to normal, the weight comes on again, right? So she goes back to normal. However, when you cut calories, when you go into a deficit, your metabolism slows down. There is one thing that will speed it up: exercise. She hasn't done any of that. So metabolism slowed down. So now her maintenance is only 1,600 calories, but she's gone back to normal. And normal for her was eating 1,800 calories. So she's now eating normally, but her metabolism's working less. So she's going to slowly put on weight. So now she's put on weight and she goes, oh, I've put on a stone again. Oh, I want to lose that. Well, what did I do last time? Oh, I ate 1,300 calories, so I'll do that. So she does, but she's now only in a 300 calorie deficit, not a 500 one. So she loses weight, but it's slower. So she does it for longer because she's only in a 300 calorie deficit, not 500. So she's only losing maybe half a pound to a pound a week. She does that for 3 months. Oh, I've lost the weight again. That worked. Let's go back to normal. Uh-oh. Her metabolism has slowed down yet again. So now, because she didn't do any exercise, her maintenance is only 1,400 calories. And she goes, oh, crap. Why have I put on weight so quickly? Because she's gone back to normal, eating 1,800 calories, right? So she now cuts massively, and she goes, oh, I need to eat even less. So she only has 1,000 calories. So this is maybe like diet number 3, diet number 4. She's eating 1,000 calories. She eventually loses the weight after a few months, goes back to normal, but now her maintenance is only 1,200 calories and she's eating 1,800. So she only has to look at a French fry to put weight on around the stomach or around the hips. So this is what happens if we diet and don't do any exercise. Your metabolism eventually just can't cope. It slows down every single diet. So now she's probably 45. She's blaming herself. She's angry. She's peed off. She feels guilty because as soon as she has one biscuit, she puts on weight. So she feels that she can never enjoy food again. Her self-worth has plummeted. She's probably got imposter syndrome at work because she's looking at all of these other people who don't, in her mind, have the same issues. She's constantly comparing herself to other women. So she spends her entire life obsessing about food, obsessing about her body, and never truly happy. Version number 2, very simple. 10 stone, 5'2", same woman. Her maintenance at 20 was 1,800 calories, no different. She put on some weight. She did exactly the same as version 1, 500 calorie deficit, ate 1,300 calories. She lost 1 to 2 pounds a week for 2 months, but she exercised. She exercised 4 times, 30 minutes a week. That's it, 4 lots of 30 minutes. And because of that, she lost the stone, but her metabolism actually went up. So her metabolism has gone up so much that her maintenance is now 1,900 calories. So guess what? When she goes back to normal, she's actually eating less than she needs. So she can eat the burger here and there. She can have the biscuits, whatever it might be. She can do that and not put on weight. That's wonderful. So actually, she can now, if she needs to lose weight for whatever reason, she can go into a deficit, continue to exercise, the metabolism will still keep going up. So ultimately, because she spends all of that time exercising as well as dieting, she ends up with a higher maintenance than she started with. And so she can go to McDonald's and go, whoa, this is great. I can eat McDonald's, not put on any weight. Fantastic. So she feels smug. She feels confident. Energy's high because she's eating enough for her body. Self-worth has gone up. No comparison, no imposter syndrome, no guilt. She trusts herself. She's in a pretty good place. So that is the key when it comes to metabolism. You cannot diet alone. You have to exercise. And most of you have probably done multiple diets in the past where you've cut out a food group, you've cut your calories massively, you've stopped eating carbs, you've gone on keto, you've done Slimming World, Weight Watchers, cabbage soup. There's a list of 146 diets. I won't go through them all. But most of them focus on one thing, restricting food. None of them focus on building your exercise. So please, of anything that you do, go and damn well exercise. It is the only thing that is going to mean that you get to eat good food and not put weight on. So that is probably the biggest key that I would give you to take away. So these are some of the women. Some of you may be watching, who knows? I know that I've got some clients here today, or past clients, who have lost the Meno-belly, who have actually managed to get rid of it, mainly by taking some basic steps that we've spoken about today, in terms of water, in terms of exercise, in terms of de-stressing, in terms of understanding that it's easier to put fat on. So once you've got the awareness and you can take a few steps and don't feel like you've got to give up cake for the rest of your life, it's much, much easier to sustain it and keep it going. So that brings us to the culmination, which is our Q&A. I haven't left huge amounts of time for it, so I do apologize. That is entirely on me, but as you can tell, I get excited about this stuff and I like to talk about it. So if we look at our Q&A, I've got a couple of questions. I'm 52 and was slim my whole life up until a year or so ago. Is this common? Yes. So unfortunately, when the menopause hits, or any stage of that, doesn't need to be full menopause, but as we were saying at the beginning, evolutionary, our hormones start to decrease rapidly after 40. And so it can be almost like a 2, 3, 4 week or a couple of months, and the hormones deplete instantly. And what happens is that your body is no longer producing the right balance to sustain the lifestyle that you had before. So for a lot of women who are going through perimenopause or beyond that, they'll see that the weight will come on within a few month period. And probably the most frustrating thing is that you don't think that you're doing anything different. It's like, well, I'm doing exactly the same. How come I've suddenly put on all this weight for no apparent reason? It's because your hormones and evolutionary system have completely shifted. And so what you need to do at that point is understand, right, this is normal. This happens to every woman, but it's then about making those fundamental changes. Drinking the water, eating more protein, that 35% protein, 35% plant-based fats, 30% carbs. Get away from all of the other stuff, the processed carbs, get away from the sugar, get away from anything like that. Start exercising in terms of resistance training. Start really building your muscle, progressively building them. And what I mean by that is not a body pump class where you're lifting small weights millions and millions of times. That will do nothing for you. It's designed like that. A lot of these kind of exercise classes, which focus on really, really light weights constantly, are designed to keep you engaged, keep it interesting. They're not designed to actually inject a boost to your metabolism, which is what you need. So the best thing you can do from an exercise perspective is low intensity exercise. So that's cardio. So something like a jog where you keep your heart rate elevated, but not extremely high like HIIT, and keep it steady for a minimum of 30 to 60 minutes. You want to do that a couple of times a week. And then you also want to focus on heavy weights. I mean, the kind of weights where you lift it and you go, Rita, I can't lift this. Yes, you can. That's where you need to go to progressively increase your muscle system and then your metabolism as well. So it's really, really common. There are things that you can do about it, but this is what the point where it's like, okay, what I was doing isn't going to work because my body isn't the same. Your hormones are not the same. So don't worry. And there will be a way to get in touch with us to ask questions on a specific level if you need it. And does this apply to everyone? So even before menopause, I had PCOS. So this is polycystic ovary syndrome for anyone that doesn't know, and struggled with hormones and weight gain. So to a point, yes, it does. Everything that I spoke about with hormone depletion, everything I spoke about on an evolutionary perspective, in terms of needing to do exercise, in terms of needing to drink more water, in terms of acid buildup being stored in body fat, all of that is applicable to everyone. But if you have a specific syndrome or condition, or, you know, I suffered with arthritis, I had cervical cancer, I've had all sorts of things. So the way that my body reacts to food or reacts to exercise is completely unique. And sometimes you just need a more specific level of understanding, which is fine. You know, I've worked with women who have gone into arthritis remission after, you know, having suffered with it for decades, women who have stopped having diabetes, all sorts of things. So it's absolutely possible to do it. It's just sometimes you need to understand that your body is unique and the way that you handle it is unique to you. So everything I've said absolutely applies to everybody, but sometimes the way that you deal with that is going to be a more specific thing. So awesome questions. Love it. So before we wrap up, which we're about to do, the last next steps. So if you were an early bird sign up, you will be getting an email with a link to book in your free 45-minute call. So this call is basically to go over your specific situation and give you a plan, a strategy to handle it. So if you're an early bird, you're going to get an email to book that in. It's a whole 45 minutes direct with me, where we can get into as much detail as we need to get you on a good stead for the start of 2024. If you weren't an early bird, don't worry, that's fine. You still get a chat. So that's going to be sort of 15 to 20 minutes. So we're still going to get into a lot of detail in that time, where we get to look at your needs, your specific sort of strategy going forward, and how we're going to make it work for you to get rid of your Meno-belly. Because you know what, we've got the new year coming up. Why not start early? And for anybody who does decide that they want to talk to us on a more specific level, who wants to sign up for coaching, then we're doing our biggest ever giveaway, which is you get the rest of the year free. So anyone who decides that they want to sign up with us for weight loss and body transformation coaching, you get the whole of the rest of the year free. So the earlier you sign up, the longer you get free. So if you wanted to sign up by the end of this week, you'd get a whole 6 to 7 weeks of coaching free of charge. Obviously, it will still be there for the rest of the year, but the later you leave it, the less weeks there are involved. And the last one is a huge raffle prize that we're giving away. So everybody who decides they want to sign up not only gets the rest of the year free, but gets put into our prize draw to be in with a chance to win both an ice bath and an Aura ring. For those of you that don't know what that is, I have one here. Ta-da! So an Aura ring is essentially the best fitness tracker on the market. It tracks everything from your menopause hormone cycles, to your calories, to your steps, to your stress rate, to your sleep. It is by far, in my opinion, the best tracker. So together, the ice bath and the Aura ring are worth £600, and you would get that free if you are put into our prize draw. So all you got to do is book in either your strategy session or your discovery call. Let's have a chat. If you want to sign up, we get you going. You get the rest of 2023 free, and you might win the best ever early Christmas presents. So that is me done. Thank you so much for joining. It's been absolutely wonderful having you here. Remember, if you do have any specific questions, book in a call or feel free to email me. You should all have an email from me by now. And have a wonderful rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you on the first webinar of 2024. All right. See everyone later. Bye.